I'm John Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. As I said in my warm-up, condolences to the family of John Worth, the founder of Woodworker Supply of New Mexico. Taught me more than pretty much everybody else in direct marketing. We may touch on that a little when I get to the last article that I'm going to cover today. Before that, I want to dive into a wonderful little spot from Dunkin' Donuts. So let's get over here to the Dunkin' Donuts.
Don't feel like wearing pants?
Okay, who drank all the milk?
Enjoy the great taste of Dunkin' at home.
Don't feel like wearing pants? Get Dunkin' Donuts at home. Okay, the number one selling book like crazy. Bible sales are up 44% for one title from Tyndale House and 60% for another. I recommend the New American Standard myself because it trots along with the Hebrew and Greek, as one of my teachers said. Or the Orthodox Study Bible, which I was actually a minor, very sliver contributor to. That'll really shake up your head. If you want some really interesting Bible reading, get the Orthodox Study Bible. So Bibles are up, but bookstores are down. So epic fantasy fell 25%, crime thrillers fell 25%, adult fiction fell 21%. But the Bible is up. And there's probably a good message there, that it's time to think deeply about your own mortality. I had a long discussion with my daughter last night about whether she'd kill me if she came over and got some yeast, since I'm the one doing the bread baking, and I sent her a bunch of articles on how you can do your own yeast. You don't have to get it from the grocery store, though I do, and I have plenty. On the book note, Adobe released a free coloring book so you can color through it, which sounds like a great idea to me, and it was produced by artists that work with Adobe products. There's also an article, I didn't put it in today, but there's an article on how to make your own coloring books with Adobe products, if you have Photoshop. Coloring books have enjoyed a huge renaissance in the last few years, but not lately. But there's a free digital coloring book that you can print out on your own printer, or you can use the fill tool, and you can fill them in brilliantly and never go outside the lines. That's my methodology. Okay, on another note, an agency guide to working from home effectively. Okay, the first one is, this is a creative lead. She says, the dog doesn't understand that I'm not at home and available for playtime or door opening duties, and I have to keep filling the kettle. Yes, you have to make your own coffee. Even at my office you do. And that's a good point, to set some time aside. And later in the article there was a note that maybe, putting on headphones or something. I have a friend in an office who used to put on a bright red hat, and that was meant no interruptions right now. I think they had some kind of open office or something, or maybe she had a regular office, but she had this code which was red hat right now, no interruptions. And I thought deeply about this when I started my agency, and I said, my kids are like 5, 3, 1 or something at the time, and 1 on the way. And I said, they're not going to get it, so I better get an office. And so I still have an office, and I feel connected to the team right here. You can't just shout across the room, but someone else added that you can walk around. See, back here, and you can walk around. See how good that works. It doesn't work so good on this setup, but I do have a way to zoom the camera way out, raise it up. I can do it if I want. And I have a lavalier around here somewhere that I can walk with that has a huge extension cord. For a while I tried to do that, but the lighting was much more difficult. This is much easier to work out. Music helps me zone into the space. Having zero commute has freed up my morning and saved so much money. So those are some good tips. Now I want to talk about Colette's article, Target Marketing Magazine. I thought it was interesting that this appeared in Target Marketing Magazine, because any book on direct marketing will talk about triggers that you might want to include in your advertising. fear, fear, fear. You know, and we used to say when I was starting out, when fear, when heart confronts head, heart will win all the time. And that the idea was to get an emotional connection was way better than to get a head connection. And she asks, should marketers use it? And this is kind of the way the article went. It kind of went downhill from here. Of course you should, unless you don't want any reaction or any retention whatsoever. And then why run the ad? Of course you do. And I mean, even the Dunkin' Donuts was a little humor. You know, humor's tough because it's got to be funny, and it isn't mostly. I tried another ad that was pool fun or something like that, and it was a big drug commercial, you know, and then there's all these warnings going across. Talk about a mixed message. So I don't think it is a delicate balance. I think at this time, what I would be saying to my customers, especially if it were true that I was running out of stuff, I would say, get it while supplies last. Order today while supplies last. That would be my number one emotional thing. Because people know, you know, that the toilet paper's gone, the frozen pizza's gone, the yeast is gone, but I have plenty of bread. People use too much yeast anyway. In most of these recipes I'm seeing, like, use a whole packet of yeast for a loaf of bread. You can use 1/8 of a teaspoon for a loaf of bread if you let it sit overnight. You make it the night before, let it sit through the day, come home, bake the bread. It works perfectly. Try as little yeast as possible. See what happens. Worst case, you get a very dense loaf, which isn't the end of the world. It toasts up great. Okay, enough tips for today. Marketers must always weigh the impact. And I would say test it. Okay, split test. You know, the great thing about direct mail, read Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins. Scientificadvertising.com, free PDF download. I highly recommend to Colette that she get a copy and rewrite an article about how to write advertising. And what Claude Hopkins says 100 years ago, in 1922, I think the first edition came out, he said, we don't have to debate this. The direct mail community has been testing these things for 50 years. So it's a book that reaches back into the 19th century, looks at the history of advertising and says, this stuff is well known. Human nature is well known. It's not a debate. If you don't want an action, if you don't want people to buy, well, better tell your client that before you run the ad. Anyway, Claude Hopkins, Scientific Advertising at scientificadvertising.com. I don't get any spiff for it. I probably should. Have a great day. Stay safe. Like and share. Your friends will think you're smart. I'm John Miglosh. Bye-bye.